Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and you've tuned into my iPhone 7 versus 7 Plus video that I'm doing live for my patrons. You can become a patron by heading over to chrispirillo.com, as opposed to just being a patron for our daily vlogs at geekfamilyfun.com. You may have seen my earlier videos around the iPhone 7 experience, starting with the iPhone 7 Plus impressions, not having had the iPhone 7 Plus, which I now have. And ultimately discovering that a lot of my initial impressions were sustained impressions once I got my iPhone 7 Plus Jet Black 256 gig, which I unboxed. So that was another video. And then over the weekend, I decided that I had to see for myself, aside from rather negative initial impressions of the iPhone 7 outright, the smaller of the two iPhones, I had to get the iPhone 7, ultimately would get rid of one or the other. So, going into today, if you've been following me in social, you would know that I was ready to send back the iPhone 7 Plus. But then I did some tests. Again, I believe in testing over and over and over again. And like when I was running through my battery of tests, it got weird. And here's how it got weird. I noticed worse performance in the iPhone 7 in running my tests today compared to the iPhone 7 Plus, side by side. I was just taken aback. Like, these are issues that I thought were worse on the iPhone 7 Plus, but I was seeing today that they were worse on the iPhone 7. The bottom line is, I guess, two things. And I will get into a full breakdown of the full-on comparison here as we continue with this video. One, there are absolutely certain animations and transitions that definitively, every single time, run worse on the iPhone 7 Plus compared to the iPhone 7. There aren't many, but they are there, and I can demonstrate them. You might ask, well, Chris, why don't you demonstrate them? One, because sometimes it's useless for me to do a video because people are going to tell me that I'm seeing things anyway, even though I can tell you I'm not seeing things, because a lot of people are backing me up on this in social. And thank you for that. Thank you for not saying I'm not seeing things, because we see the same things. If you don't, oh, bless your heart. You are so lucky. But for anybody to come forward and say, well, my iPhone 7 doesn't do that. Yeah, it does. You just don't know how to see it. Or you're not seeing it, or you're willfully ignoring it, because it's there. It's systemic. So the first of the two animations or discrepancies with the on-screen visuals, specifically in relation to frame drops, there are certain instances where the iPhone 7 Plus is worse in an animation than the iPhone 7. But, and this is where a lot of my results today brought me to the conclusion that I was already at, in initially trying the iPhone 7 and getting a lot of feedback from other people who have tried both the 7 Plus and the 7. A lot, and I would say most, an overwhelming majority of frame skips, drops, lag, hiccups, burps, whatever you want to call them, Apple's lack of follow-through with providing a 60 frame per second experience like they used to pre-iOS 7, certain animations run worse on both the iPhone 7 equally as the iPhone 7 Plus, which again tells me it's a systemic problem. It's an issue. And it rears its ugly head sometimes at the weirdest times, whether we're talking about cached on-screen visuals or, not cached, they haven't loaded yet. It's hit or miss. I'm baffled because I thought I had seen that the iPhone 7 Plus was a worse performer. In certain instances, it is. But I would say that the issues that plague the 7 Plus, by and large, plague the iPhone 7 as well. So if that was your deciding factor, I find it very difficult now in having to choose between these two. Now you might say, well, Chris, why don't you keep both? Actually, I could probably sell right now. I could sell the iPhone 7 Plus 256 gig Jet Black for twice the price that I bought it for, and effectively have paid for the 7. And don't get me wrong, I may do it, but I may be able to sell the matte black 7 and then recoup some costs potentially. But right now I'm in the state of I probably returning one or the other. I'm not thinking the other direction right now. Someone wants to make an honest bid. Hey, I'm listening. So I haven't gotten a microabrasion on the 7 Plus, by the way. A lot of people have been concerned about that. I haven't. Sorry, I've got notifications popped up on the screen. But again, I don't like showing my screens. It's not something that I enjoy doing. Let me go ahead and turn on night shift on both, because that way, see, the light is warmer instead of the blue. That's what was going on there. So let's see here. I guess I'll dive right into the impressions, and I'll be going back and forth between the two. Right now I'm in the middle. This isn't a joke. I ultimately plan on spending a few more days with both the devices. The one that I plan on returning or potentially selling is the one that I will review first. I believe I'm in a good position to review it. Both of them are running the public beta 10.1 for a couple of different reasons. One, because that may include the latest bug fixes. I don't think it includes the 10.0.2 bug fixes yet, but they will be incorporated. I did that because, remember, I had the 7 Plus first, and so I wanted to enable the portrait mode to see what the hubbub was about. So let me go ahead and tell you, because that's a comparison point between the 7 and the 7 Plus. One advantage of the 7 Plus is that you've got the dual lens apparatus, which can very well provide portrait mode or kind of cheating a bokeh effect or a depth of field in software. Maybe I'm using it wrong, but I've yet to be blown away by the feature. I know it's in beta. That's the thing. They say Apple says it's in beta. They got a lot more work to do. They may continue to improve it. I would imagine they would continue to improve it, but I don't know. I can't pass judgment. At this stage, it's probably 50% there, 50%. But there's way too many times, whether I'm in a lot of light or not a lot of light, where the edges around a subject, whether human or non-human, are blurred. There's a lot of haziness, soft edges. The detection algorithm needs to improve dramatically. They're 50% there. Can they make it to 100? I don't know. If they make it to 90, I think I'd be satisfied. But in my usage of the portrait mode, outdoors is the only option. Don't even think of using it indoors right now. Don't even think about it. If you're not outside with ample light, it's just not going to work well at all. And Apple has said that. So I don't see them, really going back on anything they might have promised. I would not necessarily say, though, at this stage, that should be a decider for you. I don't. Because, quite honestly, they're doing it in software, and it's easy, it's automatic and everything, but you could do the same thing in software. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there are apps that do that kind of effect better to a certain degree. Not to take away from Apple's magic, but I'm still cautiously optimistic about portrait mode currently being in beta, and that, it's something that has me again on the fence. Like, well, do I hold on to it? Now, the reason why I say that is because allegedly, and there have only been just a few scattered reports suggesting that because of the dual lens apparatus, it actually, when you're taking a photo, specifically with the 7 Plus, you got two lenses, and it may actually be making your photos that much more sharp, because it combines, or basically that one image that you get is an amalgamation of the images snapped by both of those lenses, which is, that's nice, if that's the case. In my tests, largely indoors, because I think that's an extreme use of a camera. Outdoors, you may see a difference, you may not, but indoors, there's a greater chance of me seeing a difference of a sharper image, so to speak, inside or with less light than outside, because it's got to do more work. But honestly, I wouldn't say that I've seen, if that is the case, that you might get a sharper or more sharp image from the iPhone 7 Plus versus the 7. I don't know if I'd go that far. I think you are seeing, or potentially seeing, Picture. Remember Picture, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? We're going to the land of make-believe now. Here we go. All aboard the trolley. So you might see differences between the 6S or 6S Plus camera and the 7 or 7 Plus camera. I haven't necessarily seen huge differences, but I've certainly seen differences. I can tell you that in my use of the camera, which, may be, again, one of the bigger differences between these two devices outright, beyond screen size and battery life. I used the telephoto lens. It's not really truly telephoto, but the 2x jump. It worked. I mean, really well outside, better than indoors. The indoor images were a bit more muddy than the outdoor images, but I actually used it, and I was very satisfied with the results. It created a better image by and large. I needed to basically zoom in to where Diana was standing somewhere, and I pressed the 2x, jumped in, it did everything I needed to do, cropped it out, but it was a solid image. It was great. It worked out very well, better than cropping the image taken by the normal lens. So I have, in an instance, used it. It was nice. I got to tell you, that would be something that would be very difficult to live without. The camera seemingly runs just as fast right now as the 6S, and you're going to hear, I think, throughout this a lot of comparison back to the 6S or potentially 6S Plus. iOS 10 doesn't perform amazingly well on the 6S or 6S Plus, but even Diana had remarked that iOS 10 runs better on the 6S Plus than the previous version, iOS 9. So if you have a 6S or a 6S Plus and you're served well by it, I don't know if I'd necessarily say that you would be in a position to upgrade. And that's just a comparison point with software performance outright. Yes, you could look at artificial benchmarks. And by the way, I benchmarked both of these, and in one case, the 7 Plus ran faster than the 7. And in another case, the 7 ran faster than the 7 Plus. So they're the same as far as I'm concerned. Are you going to see that speed outright from previous gen? I don't know. I maybe, specifically with third-party apps, but I can tell you, this is another thing where I've been on the fence. Like, some third-party apps run better on iOS 10 with the 7 and the 7 Plus compared to iOS 10 on a 6S. It's true. Like, I'm just shocked, appalled, really, at just how much jank is now prevalent in iOS everywhere, including, okay, if you want to see it. Now, if you can't see this, this is the new folder popping bug, which some people never saw, which, thank God, got addressed in iOS 10. Apple used to pay attention to details to this point. This is something they did in iOS 10 that was a finer point, but it made sense. When you open up a folder of apps, look at what happens to the icon of that folder on the springboard. It disappears because that folder is popped up. So I don't remember it doing that in iOS 9. I don't have any iOS 9 devices to test it against, but that to me is just a small thing. I don't remember that. I thought it was just the icon that popped up and everything else blurred out, including the original app folder icon. I could be wrong. Right? Someone else can tell me. It's memory. If you want to see jank, I can guarantee this. Even the Apple store employee sees this. In either the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus, because I can't see it in the 6S. Like, if it's there, it's not as prevalent. Let me go ahead and walk over here and grab my 6S. Oh man, so many animation timings need to be improved in iOS 10. It's not even I have issues with iOS 10 optimization, like on the 6S, on up. Let me go ahead and scroll here. Yeah, I'm still seeing jank, but less. This is what's weird. Less scrolling jank on the 6S with the messages list. Open up your messages app on iOS. Either iOS does, or either device, 7 or 7 Plus. Just scroll with the scroll the messages list. Scroll up, down, scroll. Now scroll back the other way. Now just kind of do this. If I'm telling you, just scroll and let go. Watch what happens. Sometimes it works better. You might say, well, it needs to cache. No, that's not in my tests. Even after it theoretically was seen, it gets worse. Then you want to add insult to injury? Do this. Do this. You're in your messages list. You've seen the jank. Because if you don't see the jank, you come back to it later. You'll see the jank. It's there. Trust me, it's there. Even the Apple Store employee, she goes, oh my God, how could you not see that? I'm like, well, apparently I don't work for Apple because they don't see it. This is the most extreme, some of the most extreme jank I've found. This is like extreme. Everything else you might not see, it's there. This is the most egregious example. Just one. Like, Apple just can't fix that. It's systemic. They got to fix the system. This is just proof positive that iOS is just not ready for prime time, as it has not been since iOS 7. So, on the 7 or the 7 Plus, sometimes it's worse on one than the other. So, I did this. I got a notification. I was testing messages. I pulled down the notification list, and the jank got worse in the notification list. But when I opened up a message in the messages list, like went to a message and then pulled out the notifications, it was better. It wasn't great, but it was better. So there's like multiple levels of jank going on across iOS. And this is what, again, it pains me because I thought I had decided. I'm like, all right, well, fine, I'll return the 7 Plus and stick with the 7. But I'm seeing, in some cases today, worse behavior in first-party or third-party apps. Oh, there's something going on, man. Okay, so in terms of, I guess I'm now segueing into performance, they're the same. They're minus a few animations, which are absolutely demonstrably worse on the 7 Plus than the 7. One example might be opening a PDF by like tapping the PDF and then having it like basically expand like an email, a PDF attachment. There's actually frame drops in the animation always in the 7 Plus, but it's smooth on the 7. Another example of animation jank. When you are at your lock screen and you tap, let's say, a notification that has a menu. So like a Facebook Messenger notification or an Instagram notification. The animation, if you like, you're at your lock screen. It's a locked device. If you press view post or whatever, it'll fade into the background and then your Touch ID prompt comes up. There's an animation, a lack of optimization in the animation every time on the 7 Plus compared to the 7. It's fantastically smoother on the 7 compared to the 7 Plus. And I'm finding other instances where there are discrepancies like that across the board, but it's worse. And it's a lack of optimization. They did the same damn thing with the 6S Plus. You might remember you put their feet to the fire about the 3D touch menu. They ultimately fixed it because Raul got a hold of somebody. By the way, not a word from Mr. Schiller, as I addressed him. Phil Schiller, I emailed. I'd sent an email to Tim Cook, but I've already heard from other people saying he just says, yeah, thank you for your feedback, but it doesn't go anywhere. Christina Warren, who now works for Gizmodo, asked what our problems were with the iPhone 7, so I sent her my list. She said she wanted to see it, so I sent it to her. Media completely ignores these problems, completely. But oh my God, there's a lack of a headphone jack. This is the way that some people look at me when I complain about these frame drops that are prevalent in the system, both of them. That's the way I look at you if you complain about a headphone jack. Like, don't drill a hole in your phone, by the way. That's an urban myth or an urban legend. Okay, so performance-wise, I didn't see any dramatic differences between the two, apart from the iPhone 7 Plus definitely in spots either can't keep up or it's just not optimized. I think what I'm seeing, and I told Diana, I think I'm seeing certain things where the animation works well enough and I don't know if it's a resolution dependent animation, but it works better on the 6 versus the 7 versus the 7 Plus, and I don't know if it's a timing issue or if it's an underpowered by the hardware issue. I don't know. I don't know I don't know enough. I honestly believe a lot of this stuff can and should be mitigated with hardware, and certainly better written software, because Apple is not best in class. That's not best in class engineering. Far from it, dude. No. They may fix it, but people have been saying that since iOS 7. So, I found them both to be okay. But it was in terms of performance, but not one indicator that would drive me, to one app over another. It's like I said, hit or miss, and sometimes third-party apps are you perform better on one or the other. Sometimes, and even then, it's difficult to predict when that's going to happen or if it's going to get updated. And that's some of my bigger complaints. It's hard to say what I'm going to keep at this point. So in terms of feel, I think y'all kind of get the idea that one is bigger than the other. I really like the size of the 7. I really do. I keep cases on them. I like the size of the 7. The physical size of the 7 I like more. That said, I think iOS is far more comfortable on the 7 Plus. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give you 2 examples. 1, folder notifications or app notifications. On the 7, icons are squeezed tighter together. They're more tight. They're compact. It's a nice design until you get this little red 3 or whatever. And then it just kind of... things start invading other things' spaces. On the 7, with a regular standard zoom or lack of zoom, it's just more evenly spaced out. There's a lot more room to breathe, and I kind of appreciate that. Just that look. Then another example would be landscape mode. I think even apps that have landscape mode on the 7 don't look as good, and this has been the case for years with iOS. It's a lack of attention to detail from Apple again. The landscape mode has the elements are better positioned. With landscape mode, say in photos on the iPhone 7, it's doing the classic the padding of the caret. Like you go photos, all photos, you can go back, or that back caret. What would that be? That's less than, right? Yeah, bad at the math. That symbol has incongruent vertical padding. Now, this may be an optical illusion, but it's even. It's dead even. On the 7 Plus, it's perfect. It's visually perfect. But on the 7, it's actually closer. I think it's closer to the top of the dimensions of the screen. So landscape apps don't. I mean, when you've got quote unquote Chrome or controls, they don't look as good in landscape mode on the 7 versus the 7 Plus. Oh, by the way, I got to tell you, I'm more and more I'm using it, the more I'm recognizing where I run into certain problems. I figured out where jank or frame drops exist in photos. Like, I can't figure out why sometimes I scroll and it's fine, and then sometimes I scroll and then it chokes. Photos scrolling chokes, both 7 and 7 Plus. When thumbnails, the thumbnails are videos. When you've got videos in that feed, it chokes. Try it. It chokes. Good. Yeah, like it's a thing. But it's the video that's what apparently that's what's throwing it off somehow. Because I mean sometimes it janks randomly anyway. Again, we used to make fun of Android for this. We did back in the day. This is when everyone was like iPhone killer. I'm like no. Well, now I think the door is wide open for an iPhone killer, and it has nothing to do with the hardware, and it's really irrespective of platform. And Android is it's not just about one device. I will say that. Dang. Some third-party apps definitely run worse on the 7 Plus compared to the 7. Like, no doubt. For example, one example of a massive amount of frame drops in both the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus with a third-party app, Tweetbot being one. They say they're looking into it. Another one, if you look at the YouTube Creator app, that allows you to see published comments, hold for review comments. They both both of them seem to drop frames, but I seem to see more on the Plus. But it could be because it's a bigger screen that I seem to see more. It's a systemic problem. Hey, I'm just comparing the two. I'm going back and forth on a lot of this stuff, but this is all about a comparison and my choices of what I'm seeing. So I think iOS looks better and feels more comfortable on the 7 Plus. So that, again, that's kind of a check mark in the 7 Plus column for me. Performance being equal. The other thing that would be the difference is the dual cameras. In terms of options, you don't really have massive differences between the two. I mean, they're Lightning ports, dual speakers. Of course, size. Of course, you'd have different size cases. They're both pretty much that way. They're the same. The differences between the two are primarily screen resolution, of course, physical size, the camera apparatus on the 7 Plus versus the 7, but that's about it. Now, I don't know if this was just my ear, and I'm waiting to get some confirmation from true audiophiles. I'm not an audiophile. I was testing the speakers today. I was like, I was kind of curious. Which one sounds better? And maybe this was just me. And this was without any equalizers toggled or whatever on either one of them. But the 7 sounded out of the box, so to speak, like a richer sound than the 7 Plus. They didn't. Neither one sounded more loud than the other. They had the same volume, but it was seemingly a slightly more rich sound coming from the 7. I don't know why. They were both laying on the table. I'm more than confident they're the same speakers, and it was an observation. But maybe it's just me. Maybe I was just hearing things. Maybe it was just that one song. I tried a few different songs. But having the dual speakers is nice, especially, when you're sitting there, listening to a video or watching a video like this. It's really nice. I had, for some reason, a mono setting toggled on accessibility, so I toggled that off the other day. I found that. I was like, whoa. In terms of things that I haven't covered yet, screen brightness, they're about the same. I believe there are some discrepancies. I think there's an Apple lists it on their website. I think there's a contrast ratio discrepancy, but for the most part, they're the same. I wouldn't say that, even though they claim it's 25% brighter than the iPhone 6 type of screen. I didn't necessarily see that side by side. I was like, I guess that was a guess. I don't know. They're brightish. Brightish. What I may do is, and this is according to some, if you're having an issue where you're not necessarily seeing it that much brighter, you can reset settings, not erase all content and settings, but reset all settings. Now, granted, that resets all your settings, and I'm I don't want to do that because then going through each one again is just like, oh man, what a pain. I don't want to do that. So I'm hoping that I'll just deal with it, with the brightness that it is exhibiting. I'm probably just going to take it into a store and then do a side-by-side brightness test, just to know if I'm getting like the full brightness or if it's something that was somewhat limited, allegedly. Some people are reporting that as a potential issue, but I don't know. I guess it's not that concerning to me. I have noticed that it doesn't get as bright when it's plugged in, which is weird. Audio, camera, speakers, battery life. Okay, so this is kind of difficult to test too when we're talking about battery life, because of course I've been doing a lot of testing, a lot of intense focused. This is what I'm doing. I got to get it done. Okay, so I got to do this. So I'm running these tests. So of course the bigger battery is going to last longer. I wouldn't say that the battery life between the 7 and the 6S, just my limited tests, seems better. They say it's 2 hours better. I'm not sure if I see that, but I've been using it a lot, so I can't say that's a test that I necessarily run. But yes, of course, having a bigger battery on the Plus is a huge advantage. That's certainly going to last longer. It seems just the same. Honestly, I haven't perceived it being any better or any worse. It seems the same, which to me at the end of the day is like, it seems the same. I guess that says it all. Some people may have seen better battery life, others not so much. But I will say that that's just I've been running it through tests, and I've been using the devices a lot more than I might normally use them for. In terms of general experience between these two, they're really close to the same, despite, like I said, the 7 Plus failings are offset by the 7 Plus benefits. I mean, because they're bad things that can and should be fixed in software that Apple's probably never going to do, which is a completely depressing conversation. This is where I'm torn, right? Do I go with the 6S, which feels more comfortable? I'm sorry, 7, which feels far more comfortable in my hand, or do I go with the 7 Plus, which feels a lot more comfortable, by and large, design-wise, with iOS to my eyes? Performance, for the most part, being the same. I don't know. Now, another difference that I haven't seen this, bear any fruit. Allegedly, some people are reporting that they have better memory management issues with the 10.1 public beta. I can't say that I do. A lot of my apps are constantly refreshing themselves. This thing on both the 7 and the 7 Plus. So I don't know what they're using that extra gig of RAM for, but it ain't for systems or the system operation. It isn't. Like Tweetbot being one example. Maybe this is just the wrong example, but more than just Tweetbot, a lot of my apps are constantly refreshing. The memory management has got to be a memory hog on either one. The 7 and the 7 Plus. I'm finding that both of my apps are both apps on both. And I found this even with the 6S. And I think this is an iOS 10 optimization. I don't think it's a hardware issue. I think it's a software issue. But then again, I think a lot of Apple's problems are related to software. And I stand by that. I want them to fix it. I want to help to help them fix it. But those differences, I think, they're important to remember, right? You're talking about general usability. You're talking about your use case. I'm probably going to have to make a pros and cons list. But right now, as of today, believe it or not, call me someone who just can't decide. Why not both? Well, no, I can't do that. One of these is going. I like the matte black more than the jet black. I do regret that decision. I like the matte black. It's less stressful. Although, again, I know of, I haven't had any micro abrasions. Keeping in the case, of course, taking care of it. I mean, I think I would see it by now with these exposed areas, but nothing so far. But I really do think I would have been happier with the matte black, less stressful. I just find it like, okay, I don't have to worry about scuff or whatever. It'll be fine. Any other things? I don't know what else, what we got here. 25% of the battery unplugged in last night. Been up since 4:45. Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I'm not sure what else I've got. I'm on my rubric, and this is what I do for every review, and this is like just the comparisons. I've got impressions, feel, design, options, responsiveness, screen, audio, cameras, speakers, battery, bonuses, integrations, ecosystem, experience, and value. It's a wash for a lot of those things between these two. And maybe I'll dive in deeper into those differences with the upcoming iPhone 7 review and iPhone 7 Plus review. I'm really hoping I get another beta that improves a lot of these problems. I really am, because it'll make it easier to decide. But right now, as of right now, I'm leaning towards the Plus. I can't believe I'm saying that. Because I'm seeing the same jank in both. So why not get a larger screen resolution, bigger battery, a better camera, or camera apparatus, whatever you want to call it. And suffer through a few animations that I'm going to call Apple's attention. I'm going to keep working on finding someone at Apple who will listen to me, who will understand what it is that I'm talking about, who will see it, and who will work to fix the systemic problem. I'm going to try. I haven't heard from Schiller. Not like I'm checking incessantly. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a message off to Tim Cook. It's just going to be a quick message, and I emailed Phil, hadn't heard back. but you've got some serious issues on not living up to your 60 frame per second problem, and I'm not the only person to perceive this. I've got, a laundry list of massive problems that I need to convey to your engineers because it's a systemic problem. Your hardware is beautiful, but your software is not. It's the opposite. So there you go. There's a comparison between the two, my experiences between the two. If I missed something, it wasn't intentional. I don't know what else you would want me to cover between the two, because I think many people have already come to their own decisions. But this was a shocking revelation for me that I'd be leaning back towards the Plus. Shocking. Oh, yeah, I forgot. The other big difference being that additional gig of RAM. Whether or not Apple's taking advantage of it yet, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see them taking advantage of it. And the portrait mode might be kind of still in the gimmicky realm and whatever else they're going to push down the pike. So, I turn on reduced motion, by the way. It doesn't fix every problem, trust me. It makes it easier to deal with the problems on both the 7 and the 7 Plus. Turning on reduced motion is almost an absolute. Though they kind of broke one thing, or they're still in the process of, I guess, addressing another thing in the 10.1 first public beta. I can't send feedback on my 7 Plus. It's like stuck in an outbox, but the 7 works just fine. It's weird. Maybe that'll be fixed in the next beta. I don't know. So I think I've said everything I need to say at this stage. I will tell you that I would have not wished to have spent a lot of my time on this stuff. I'm far more excited with tonight's festivities around Rogue One. It's Rogue Friday at midnight. I am participating. I hope to get a free t-shirt and some Star Wars toys. I'm excited for that. Way more excited than any of this. I'd rather be spending my time with Star Wars stuff. So, I think that's it. I love you. I know, Corey, but here's the thing. Everything we talked about, Corey, it was just as bad on the 7 as it was the 7 Plus, meaning they're the same for the most part. They're the same. It proved me wrong. Maybe Apple's messing with me. I don't know. I love you. I appreciate you. But at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices. Today's free highlight was brought to you by all of my active patrons from ChrisPirillo.com. If you want access to the full TLDR episodes, both audio, video, past, present, and future, which can be up to an hour long or longer, with even more tech insight from me, plus other bonus content without ads, and support me at the same time, you can sign up to become one of my supernomies too. This is just a brief taste of what I'm producing for you. Again, get more through ChrisPirillo.com.